Can we mic up my kids instead? What's that? You're projected? Ooh, for us blind folks, because I made the mistake of.
Hey, mister.
Howdy.
Hi.
Oh, I can never get that.
I'm going to use all of it. Well, we can call a break anytime, so.
I brought a bag of food just in case. Yep,
Well,
bag.
I think we have, I think oh, sorry.
She will also bring a bag of food after last meeting.
As soon as I came out of my mouth, I thought she was probably not what I should have used, but I mean, it's scripted.
He walked in here and I'm like, oh, it's going to be that kind of meeting. I said, you see Zach reach back for his helmet.
What is the last four of the password?
7275, the township address.
7275.
Yes, exclamation. And then an exclamation point.
Oh, that's what I missed, was the exclamation point.
Yes, yesterday was the last password.
Maybe. No.
Capital G, lowercase u, lowercase e, dollar sign, T, lowercase, 7275, exclamation. No exclamation. Oh, no exclamation? No. Well, no exclamation.
Wow, I
I thought you were going to be like,
7.
7275.
I can't see that far. And I was even trying to adjust the trifold.
Are you in yet?
It's in now. Yes.
Good.
You should see my.
Oh, just so we're all on the same page. Okay, why am I? Oh, here it is. Okay. Still not working? Yes.
I need to start flagging these emails with the links in them. 'Cause then I can never find them again. Did you send it or did David send it?
Oh my gosh, I don't have an instrument of writing. Yeah. I don't have a pen, you don't have an agenda. You're well prepared. Your doctor, I know you have one somewhere. I bet you got some forceps in there too.
I have everything but what I need.
I talked to an independent doc, this last weekend, somebody who's still working independently. Yeah.
That's a rare breed.
Uh-huh.
Sherry, did you or David send the link to the cloud documents? Or not the cloud documents, the
I don't remember. All right, are we ready to get started? All right, good evening. It is currently 5:31, and I'm going to call this meeting to order, and at this time, I welcome you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And at this time, I would offer up the opportunity for board members to utilize remote location identification for remote attendance when permitted by statute. I'm aware that Clerk Farmer was not going to be in person, but would be eligible to attend via remote location identification. There are no action items on the agenda tonight. This is strictly conversation. And also, I'm aware that Trustee Cole was going to attempt to attend remote. And so, do we see Clerk Farmer, Trustee Cole?
We have one person online, it's just a phone number, so we have no idea who or what they are.
Do you want to go ahead and, is this Trustee Cole or Clerk Farmer?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, yes. I'm dialed in on my phone and I'm in the car driving, so it's going to take me a minute to unmute each time. So if you can give me a moment, I have to hit the pad *6. So, but this is me, this number.
And I appreciate that, and maybe you should just, if you're not driving, that's fine. If you're driving, perhaps maybe you should just be on listen. I think this is a good meeting to be, but if you are available and able to provide comment, we will be looking for your hand being raised. So thank you for being here.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Next, we have item number 4, which is a reminder of the township mission, vision, and core values. And do I have a member of this body wishing to share a core value?
I'll share the core value. Decisions are made logically through the collection of evidence, facts, and public input.
Thank you, Trustee Sikora. Good way to move into budget discussions, right? Next is item 5, approval of the agenda. And I have one change of the agenda that I'm aware of. The AGVs from the supervisor's office will not be presented this evening. So I will strike that from the agenda. Are there any other changes to the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda is amended.
Support.
A motion by trustee Chapman and support by trustee Sikora to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries with 5 with 2 absent. And I guess that is an action item. My apologies. I did want to just share before we move into public comment with the board that given the fact that this meeting is for conversation and the work session, Attorney Porter is not with us this evening because there aren't any action items, using the highest and best use of everyone's time. And so I just wanted you to be aware that that's a known entity as far as Attorney Porter not being present. So at this time, I'll move to item number 6, which is public comment. So at this time, I will offer public comment to anyone here with us seeing a hand raised. I would welcome you to provide public comment if you wouldn't mind sharing your name and if you reside in the township.
Robert Froman, yes, I'm in Precinct 1 of Oshtemo. I was just wondering, since it is a budget meeting, do we have last year's budget and a proposed budget for this year for us to follow?
No, we did not put anything out publicly. So last year's budget is on the township website under 2025 budget, so you can find it there. And no, given the necessity of the conversation regarding the recommendations of HR, I think we couldn't put a proposed budget together yet that would be ready for public consumption. So the conversation tonight, I anticipate, will lead to informing the HR office and my office about how to move forward with board priorities.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Is there any other public comment? It's really a question, but that's okay. Do we have any hands raised online? No hands raised online? All right, at this time, I will close public comment. We'll move into presentation, and I'm pleased to introduce Rich, hold on, Blair, thank you, Claire. Rich Blair, our new meeting communications manager, and he's here today to share his first mission, vision, or mission, doggone it. You know where that's coming from, don't you, Neil?
AGV?
Neil knows where the goals, visions, and meeting community. No, it's another organization that Neil and I served together that used a different terminology. All right, Rich, I'm sorry. Rich, welcome, and please, we're happy to see your goals, visions, and goals, accomplishments, goals, and visions for media and communications.
There we go.
Good golly,
Okay.
Miss Molly. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so jumping right in, the 2025 accomplishments, I just joined the organization in July, so these are really piggybacking a bit off of the person that was in my role before, Kyle Gibson. He did a lot of good work, and I'm happy to come in and pick up where he left off and then pull things forward in addition to that. So, looking at 2025, I came on board. I'm very happy to be here. I am an Oshtemo resident, have been since about 2015, and have 2 kids in the KPS school system. I'm really proud and happy to be an Oshtemo resident, so anything that I can do to help move our mission forward and communicate at a high level with the residents it's really exciting to me. So there's a little picture here of me and my 14-year-old son at opening day this spring, tradition that we have. So a little bit about me there. Some of the other things that happened in 2025, some website improvements. Kyle really improved the searchability of the website and made sure there was a lot more information available to residents through the website, so that was a big shift. And then I plan to make it a little more visually appealing and engaging. So those are the things where I want to continue to move it forward. Social media, a lot more posting. The presence improved, dramatically with a focus on resident needs. Like for example, there is that Facebook post that went out or social media post about free microchipping for your pets. Things like that are valuable to residents. We want to make sure that we get those things out there. And he also added a lot of department forms were developed for numerous departments and put online to make it easier to get in touch with the department heads and the elected officials. So when I say, go back just a little bit, when I say I wanted to make it a little more visually appealing and engaging, one of the things that were put together is on your screen as well, that 101 graphic, the Sewer Connections 101. So as things come along, we really want to inform the residents of what's happening. That's a really good way to do it. So, and it's appealing and yet answers some questions. So that's why that is there. So moving on to the balance of this year and into next year, some of the goals that I have for this department is to strengthen some of the brand standards. We really want to make it consistent across all digital and print materials, socials, internal things like letterhead, email signatures, signage, things like that. We really want everything to be very consistent so we can strengthen, who Oshtemo is and how we're perceived. We want to develop a little bit of the identity and voice for the township. I've lived here for quite a while now. I love Oshtemo. I don't know exactly who we are sometimes. So I'm really looking forward to working together with peers and putting that together. And let's see, another thing that is a goal for me is to put together a content calendar. So we have this cache of topics that we want to talk about that are seasonally appropriate, things that would be important or noteworthy to the residents. Just have a calendar of those things that are out there so we can be consistent. Let's see. So I came from an agency, a marketing agency, and I had 10 or 12 clients. And I view this role as being each department elected official. They each have different needs, so I'm treating them each as their own client. So I really want to put together a specialized plan for each of those departments. The needs are going to be different. So through the balance of this year and into Q1, that's important to get that foundation in place. I also want to develop good relationship, a deeper relationship with the media, so they know that they have a contact here at Oshtemo, share good news, and when they have questions, they can reach out. A big part of that is developing that media list. So I have put one together. It's just a kicking off point, but it's a lot of journalists, of course, but then also community partners, some of our peers in other, like-sized townships, also county officials, and we really just want to develop this network where we're talking to each other. And also join some professional organizations. One of them that comes to mind is the American Marketing Association. There's a really strong chapter here in Southwest Michigan. It's just a great way to learn and bring good ideas back to Oshtemo. So then moving forward, 2026 and beyond that, want to develop a toolbox of photos, graphics, more video, social media. The best engagement that you get from your followers and to grow followers is to have videos, short videos. So we will be putting a plan together for those things. More images, graphics, more photos for the newsletters, social media, on the website. Just really drive that so it's a little more visually engaging. And more engagement with the residents and potential residents and business owners. So we really want to focus on content that will do that. And again, I talked about it before, but I'd like to build a network of government communication folks. There actually are a couple of organizations that are focused just on city and county municipalities and who runs communications for them. So I'd love to join those and bring back those good ideas as well. And then, I've talked about the communication. Each one of these departments will have their own specialized needs. So I plan to meet with those department heads every year to survey what's missing and what could make their job a little easier, and also, more importantly, just to create a very informed resident. So want to put together a little toolkit of all the print and digital resources that each of those departments will need. And for example, you'll see it on your screen, one of the first things that were put together is working with the building department so that they had a very clear, concise, when do you need a permit and when you don't, and that is now available. So little things like that. Let's see. And then internal communications, between departments, we want to start creating some kind of a foundation for information sharing, some kind of a structure for that as well. So those are some of the things that are a little more long-term vision. So that is what I have for everyone today. Any questions?
Do you have any questions for Rich?
Yes, I do.
Sure.
Comments and questions.
Sure.
Welcome.
Thank
Glad
you.
you've jumped in with both feet and are running. I've noticed a lot of the posts that you've done, so they're out there. I'm seeing them in the different social media sites. I like your idea of, the branding. I know we've had that discussion at the Parks Department or whatever, that making sure the signage makes sense, and what is Oshtemo Township Park and what do we call that, so that people know which park is, when we're talking about the park in Oshtemo and things like that. So yeah, those are all great things, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. I did just come from the Friends of the Parks meeting, and we talked about there's a person who's doing videos of our parks, is going to try and do this, so maybe you've already, well, I don't know if you've already heard it since it just came up, but yeah, definitely connect with that, because those will be more things that we can put out there and share, like, what goes on at this park, what's happening, and that sort of thing. And my only question is, would you please fix the sign as you walk in the door? The big display thing that has nothing on it.
Okay,
And I kind of realize that, in my thought process, that if you're an employee and you walk in the back entrance, you never see it. But if you walk in the front entrance, you see that big, empty digital display thing. So please ask you.
That is
Yeah, no,
squarely.
and some of that, so putting material on that is media and communications. The back end of making that sign run is maybe not his, and so I think it's John's, and I thought it was repaired. It's not, apparently?
So it was repaired for a couple of weeks. The TV now is malfunctioning. It is just turning itself off. I've done firmware updates. I've done things. We're going to have to get a new TV for it.
Okay. That's good to understand. So I was under the impression that it was repaired. I hadn't noticed that it wasn't functioning again. We might have to just go back to old school posting notes until that's repaired, so.
Old school TV.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Rich?
It's not a question, but a comment. I appreciate the question about the identity. That's something that I've been struggling with and wrestling with, how to create an identity and how to rally people around that. So I very much appreciate you bringing that up, because I think that's going to be very important to our development in the future. So thank you.
That's great to hear. And any input is welcome as well. We want to make sure we get this right.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? I'm very grateful that you wanted to come join the township, not only because you're a resident, but also your professional background. Again, when new people, we add these positions, they come in, it's very hard to not let it just thunderstorm on them of the needs that are required of them. So, Rich, you definitely jumped in with both feet. I know, I believe you did a ride-along with the fire department. I don't know, I know you've met with all of your colleagues in the different departments. We can already see the difference. So I look forward to seeing how we can better communicate with the residents moving forward with your expertise. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Looking forward to it.
Thanks. Rich has a big day tomorrow. He's going to have to drop his first off to
I do.
higher education.
I have to take my daughter to college tomorrow morning. It is terrifying. She's going to Northern, so it's only 8 hours away.
Congratulations, that's
She
awesome.
doesn't want to go to tech?
Exactly.
All right, next we're going to move into item 8, which is the work session, which is the beginning of our budget discussion. And I don't have the meeting date in front of me specifically, but members might remember that our HR director, Sarah, is along with the consultants we'd hired from Siegel, did a presentation to the board probably about, 3 months ago? It's been a while. And the direction from the board was to accept the information and request a recommendation from the HR department. And then I also want to remind this body that this work all started putting out the RFP to do the compensation study, accepting the compensation study, and requesting the HR make a recommendation over a value of making sure that the township in its practices was being competitive out in the market. And so that's where I want to start from, and I think that the reason the board, and I'm sorry, Sarah, but I want to just like kind of preface these few things, because I know you've been working on this for weeks. I want to preface this whole budget work session discussion over, and we don't have to answer it tonight. The reason that there isn't a blue line present is that we need to have a discussion, and my office needs direction to direct Sarah and the other department heads on, are we people or projects? And that is going to be how, when we see what the recommendation is, and then also move through what we want to do in capital expenditures versus what we can. I think that we have to have that understanding of, are we going to be a people investment, a project investment? Do we stagger that? How do we make that? And so with that, I will welcome Sarah Feaster, our HR director, and her recommendations from HR regarding the Siegel study.
Great. Thank you, Sherry. Good evening, everyone. You have some information in front of you to kind of guide this conversation. This is a highly anticipated conversation. There's been a lot of discussion around the office about next steps with this study, so I'm going to jump right into it. So for some background information, the Township Board approved us to move forward with this Siegel study in February of 2020. And then the purpose of the study was to evaluate market data to the current positions and the salaries to see where we kind of set within those. Human Resources did work closely with Siegel through this process to complete the study through 2024 and into 2025. And then that final report was presented and accepted by the board on March 25th, 2025.
Oh.
So this is the follow-up, yeah. Quite a while ago. So I'm excited to follow up with next steps. So why is this work important? Why did we invest the money into running this compensation study and really, adopting a new pay grade structure, going through and looking at our wages as they compare to our, neighboring municipalities and comparable municipalities will allow us to remain competitive in the market, support employee retention, and recognize the value that our employees bring to the township. And a competitive and strategic compensation structure is essential to retaining that talent and also providing the best service that we can to our residents. Happy employees is great customer service. So by implementing the proposed pay grades, the township is reinforcing its commitment to fair, market-aligned pay and reducing the risk of losing employees to higher paying opportunities elsewhere. And this approach also strengthens our position as a preferred employer and provides long-term sustainability to the township. So what are the township board responsibilities? First off, and I'll give more information on this discussion in the next slide, we need to determine which multiplier to adopt in relation to the compensation market data, whether we use 90% or 100%. Again, more information to come on that. And then a proposed motion to approve the proposed pay grades at a multiplier of X, 90 or 100, as well as the revised section 4.9, the compensation and performance review handbook policy. Okay? What is that multiplier? So the multiplier, the township's board responsibility first and foremost is to decide whether to use a 90% or 100% multiplier. And essentially what that multiplier is deciding how to weight the market data when we extrapolate that out to our wage bands. So will we use a 90% or 100% of the composite market data? And as a reminder, the market data was based on those peer municipalities you see there. Some are larger than us, some are our size, and some are not super smaller, but it's kind of a wide range that we looked at for those comparables. And then also included in the composite data was some select private sector data. So what you have in front of you expands a bit on this, but these are the proposed pay grades. So it's a 101 pay grade through a 118 pay grade. And those are the ranges that you'll see there. And they're broken down by 90% of the market or 100% of the market. Now, what you have is this information, but it also includes 10 sub-steps under those ranges. That's where the compensation will be situated. So as I was working through, how to roll this out, what my recommendation is, how do we make this very clear and transparent for staff to see, this is where I am, this is where I could be, how do I get there? That was a consideration that I thought through and kept that in the front of my mind as I'm, making my recommendations for this. And that is where those 10 sub-steps were born. So essentially, the pay grades would be, or where someone is assigned would be a 101-01 through 010. Okay?
So those are steps in other.
Right, yes.
So known
Yep.
as steps within a pay grade, okay.
And setting it up like that, well, for one, I met with Kalamazoo County a number of times to pick their brain on how they rolled out their change in their compensation structure. They did this same study with Siegel a couple years ago. So I thought, tapping into that knowledge was beneficial for us. So I did that, and the sub-steps is something that Kalamazoo County also uses and have had a lot of success with that. So that's how that was born. And again, makes it very clear and transparent for staff to say, okay, well, this is where I am, this is my compensation, and then along with this is that revised compensation policy, which says if you have a positive performance review, instead of assigning a percentage for merit during budgeting, you move up a step, and those steps are already established, so already very clear. Do I have any questions on these ranges? Obviously, the 100% range is a little bit higher than the 90% because of the weighting of that data.
I want to, Sarah, make it clear, so what before you is the recommendation of the HR department, so that multiplier doesn't, so 100% is adopting the recommendations of the Siegel study, then we use that multiplier to take a look at those ranges, what we think makes sense for our township, but that multiplier can be adjusted to 80%, 70%, so this is the recommend. Thank you, John. What I wanted to make sure the board understood is the recommendation is from the HR department, but the multiplier, which is the 100% or the 90%, that multiplier can be adjusted to other percentages to reflect what the board thinks that is appropriate for the township.
Yeah, thanks, Sherry.
Couple of questions. These are just salary numbers, correct?
These are just salary numbers, yes.
How do we have data in-house available to us to help us understand the value of our benefits compared to the market? Because I'm trying to understand, because I know we have generous benefits, be from paid time off, holidays, to medical, in the whole gamut, right?
Yes.
We do a pretty good job there. So I think understanding that relationship to the private market would help me understand what is equitable from a multiplier
Sure.
perspective, right?
Yep, I totally understand. That's a great question. So at this time, I don't have any data to present as far as how our benefits compare with other municipalities. I do that work annually, kind of during open enrollment, to get an idea of what other municipalities are offering and relative to what we are offering. We certainly do have a great benefit package. I'm happy and proud to have that available for our staff. And, you know, just with the experience I have looking at other benefit package, it's comparable to what other municipalities are offering. I don't want to over,
So,
share.
okay,
Yes, yep.
maybe here's a better question. Remind me of the data from Siegel. So when if we say 100%, we're
Yes.
basically taking the Siegel numbers.
Yes.
Are those just peer entities, or are those all private market jobs that might fall in the same category?
It's composite numbers. So these numbers were born from them taking all of the comparables, putting
Government
those.
and non-government?
Government
Okay.
and some non-government, some private sector, only those positions that are applicable to what we're doing
Okay.
here.
Okay.
Yes.
So I guess that's important for me, because I was kind of thinking, oh, maybe they're comparing these, secretary in the private sector, or secretary in the government sector. We might want to make an adjustment, but if we're kind of comparing already to like entities.
They didn't just look at a job title and say, okay, this has an assistant clerk,
Right.
how much is, they looked at job duties.
Correct,
That's
sure.
that's an important differentiation, that
Okay.
it's not just job titles, it's looking at what is that job doing.
Okay.
When we're looking to gather that comparable data.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I think, though, we can say that is it about, the benefit package to salary is about 55, 56%,
I've been
like that?
using 50% is kind of my multiplier, and that's just an
I-
average. It varies depending on the person, obviously, but the
It's more
average
than-
I've
I
been
think
using.
it's more than that. Yeah.
I think, okay, yep. So I've been using 50% as my rule of thumb.
So
mean, but that's
the
just-
benefits, the value of the benefits is about 50% of the salary?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, on average.
Okay.
Yep.
Understand.
So
That's helpful, thank you.
at the 90% range, looking at the 101 band and the minimum that's less than minimum wage.
Correct. That's a great call out there.
Because
So,
minimum wage, if I'm not mistaken right now, is $12.48, and
Yes.
that would be $12.26. So that's not even legal.
We're
glad
not
you-
even going to do that. She's going to show you how that's going away.
I'm glad you brought that
Or
up.
that we're not going to,
I
right.
actually did math in public for once.
Well, good. So on the page that you have that breaks these ranges down, you'll notice that in the 101 and the 102 range, there are some grayed out numbers.
Okay.
So what I did is I looked at 2026 minimum wage, which is increasing, and I eliminated those ranges. We cannot pay those because it's below minimum wage. However, you might ask, why didn't you just take them completely out? Proportionately, it affects every other number down the line in the wage band, which was getting us out of whack with what Siegel was recommending for our appropriate ranges. And I would also add that this is similar to what Kalamazoo County did. Their data got returned, they just decided to black out the ones that they set, yes. Well, not just illegal, but they set their minimum, the minimum amount we want to pay people is this amount. And it was higher than minimum wage. So they blacked out anything under that. So that could also be something that we would like to talk about is what is the minimum rate we'd like to pay people? What of these numbers need to be not used? These are the ones that we legally cannot use.
Thank you.
So the town, oh, I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Just, I mean, so I used the MIT living wage calculator because I didn't have a more appropriate source, and I felt that that was fairly appropriate. And it's the minimum wage, the minimal living wage for Kalamazoo County would be $20.21, $20.21. And if I use your 50% measure, that would, obviously adjust it, but I just want to make sure that even our lowest pay grade employee is at that. Would they be at that?
The $20 and
They're not.
Yes.
They,
Even with the benefits, 50% benefit?
I'm not sure if you're blending those two numbers together, I don't know, but I was gonna say anecdotally, a couple years ago, we had talked about trying to get to $15 an hour.
Yep.
We still had some employees that were part-time, maybe in the parks, whatever, that were less than that at that time.
I
And
don't think that's true anymore, though.
This was, we had a different supervisor at this time that I'm recalling this, so I'm not sure I'm just telling you it has been that way in the past, and so there's a good chance that there are not to 20 yet, for sure.
I can, oh, okay. I just lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. We have, a number of years ago, we talked about, I believe, and I don't want to overspeak, but I think it was, we don't want to pay people less than $15. We don't have anyone currently, except for firefighters in training. Yes. Yep.
So,
I just
I just
want,
wanted to add to his
Sure.
comment. I would be interested in exploring something like that, whether it's moving it to that number or not, but I'd like to understand and have a conversation about what the township's minimum wage ought to be.
I think that's important to set.
Yep.
Yep, for sure. Okay, good questions. Other questions on these ranges?
can you describe, let me say, so at some point in a previous board, it was discussed and agreed upon that we wanted township employees to be at least at the midpoint for their pay scale. So that is what we've been working towards. So even prior to the Siegel study, when the HR department has done outside independent research of where to land a position, that value is applied when considering an applicant. So making sure that we are attracting and retaining talent by using our independent research to get to the midpoint is what we've been doing thus so far. So I think, just personally, if you get what you pay for sometimes, right? And so, anyway, I just want to, the grades that Sarah has proposed here, or the ranges, and then the steps, that middle point in that step represents the midpoint for that salary range. I just, so, if we start at, 101-10, could you just give us an example? Just pick one out so that it's very clear in the step where, so there is a range in each step, but it's also that step lies within the midpoint for that range.
So
am I describing that correctly?
let me give you some information on how these numbers were born. So I took, what Siegel recommended to us was simply a 101 should be this range. And I've originally, expanded on that. That's how those sub-steps were born. So I took their suggested minimum and their suggested maximum and assigned those 10 numbers in between based on those minimum and maximum. So you'll also see on there how there's a 3.85 difference between each of those sub-steps. That 3.85% got us to those recommended minimum and recommended maximum for that grade. So, again, like Sherry had mentioned, the whole well, step one to this entire process is approving these suggested ranges and deciding what multiplier we want to use, because that's going to inform what our pay ranges are, looking at that multiplier. Okay, so that's step one, is making sure that these ranges make sense and this is what we want to adopt. And then step two to this is situating those positions into, our existing positions into those ranges to get a baseline for all of our staff, bringing them into these ranges. And that, you know, I do have that information here as far as financial implications and all that. I did not include that in this presentation today because I wanted to roll this out and let you start thinking about where you would like to be. But however, like I said, I do have it upon request. My recommendation, and this was going to come at a future meeting, would be to move everyone right to the middle, which would be, for example, a 101, 105.06. That's the baseline we're going to set for our current staff, would put them right at that 06 number in the middle.
And I know the answer to this, but what happens when you get to the 105.10? What's the next step? Is it 106? Is it, what happens then?
So the plan for these ranges is to inflate them with COLA. So if we decide that we're going to increase a compensation based on cost of living on an annual basis, the range minimum and the range maximum shift that amount of percentage, and then proportionally everything in between does as well. And so when you get to the top, those ranges will be inflated with COLA. When you get to the top of your range, you're capped out for your job. That's the way that Kalamazoo County also does it. So once you reach that 105.10, that's what you'll continue to make unless there's cost of living increases. Unless your job duties change, that will place you in a higher bracket or you move positions.
Just to be clear on the COLA change, so each year you'll compute COLA and then not amortize, but recompute these tables? And so whatever your grade is stays the same and your new rate becomes effective?
Yes.
Okay.
With COLA. It's essentially what we've been doing
Yeah,
now.
but-
It's just,
It used to be like, okay, you're this, so your COLA's this, and it was all felt like one COLA number
Yeah.
and a bunch of different random salaries. Now we'll have a lookup table for
very
it.
clear
Yeah,
how.
that makes a little more sense. Thank you.
So can you talk about how the steps for each range would be used for merit increases?
Sure, yep. So currently, the current state, what we did last year, we adopted that new compensation policy, as you recall, and I think it was November 2024 for implementation 1/1/25. We looked at cost of living. We essentially broke out merit from cost of living. Cost of living is just retaining your buying power in the world, keeping your buying power. So we looked at COLA separately from merit. We determined if we were going to do a cost of living increase on January 1st, which was across the board, everyone got it regardless of where you were, January 1st, 2025, across the board. Performance reviews were due at the end of Q1. And then associated with that, we also last year, this board set the maximum amount of percentage increase for a merit. It happened to be 3% last year, and then depending on what you scored on your performance review, you received 3% or a portion of the 3% based on the review. So moving forward, and this is supported by the compensation policy red line in the packet also, we'll no longer look and say, okay, for merit, we can do 4% this year. If you have a good performance review, you move up a sub-step.
That's nice.
Yep.
That's very nice.
So again, very transparent, clear, everyone knows what to expect all the time, every year.
A truly fair system.
Yeah. Good questions.
All right, so back to the multiplier.
Yep.
I do not feel like I have an understanding of how I should think about this decision, right? So part of me is like, I want the staff to be compensated at 100%. Part of me is like, well, it's pretty generous. How are we supposed to think about that multiplier? Do you have any more insight beyond that? I'm trying to.
Yeah. So the way I look at the multiplier is, there's the reason that I gave you these peer municipalities that we used. think about those peer municipalities. Obviously, Grand Rapids is bigger than us. They have more staff, probably higher salaries.
Yeah.
So when we're weighting the data that they've returned to us, it's compiling all of this into an average, essentially, that they returned. So Grand Rapids will inflate it a bit, the lower
Compared to
ones.
us.
Compared to us, correct. So that is why determining what multiplier we want to use is crucial, because, all these averages put together of these municipalities, do we want to be at 90% of that average, 100%? I don't feel like I'm answering your question at all.
No, I mean, I get it. I guess that's where I was trying to get to. I was trying to answer my own question originally when I was saying, what's the comparable data? Was it municipal? Was it a composite of municipal and market? Because if it was just municipal, why not just go with 100% and be just like our peers, right? But if it's private in there too, then maybe it's a little too sweet, right? So I'm trying to be thoughtful and discriminate between those two things.
Sure.
I appreciate that perspective because the private sector data, which, is it listed on one of our sheets?
It's not. I will also say there wasn't a lot of weight on the private sector data. I think they mostly just used that. There wasn't much they could find in the private sector.
So if I'm looking at this and I say we're going to do 90%, and that's the answer that we walk away from tonight, does that mean that given a entity that we've been compared to, we are roughly 10% behind them on average for all of our employees?
Collectively, with all these municipalities considered. Now, if we just take City of Kalamazoo, for example.
On salary only,
Salary
yes.
only.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we take City of Kalamazoo, for example, I don't know what our percentage is compared to them. So what we're determining is all of these together, these bigger ones, these middle ones, these little ones.
And that base one that we talked about for our purpose was 106, what were you, that was the one we kind of wanted to get everybody to, the middle of 106?
The midpoint of each respective
Oh,
range.
okay, wherever they're at.
This
Got it.
06 of each range, yes.
Okay, fair.
Correct.
Because obviously the ranges are wildly different, as you go higher, right?
Yeah, depending on which multiplier you use, it changes the baseline data,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
I think that,
I was gonna say, do you have some insight that you want to share about where you're leaning as far as the multiplier goes and why, maybe? I just want to get some
I
context
think
on that.
so the private sector data, if I recall, that was included in their survey was actually much broader beyond Michigan. So, my lens was that I thought the private sector data was skewing heavier, that the data was being skewed heavier due to what they were pulling in for private sector. So that's one thing. The other thing I think we have to understand, or a part of the conversation has to be, do you do this all at once? Do we do it in phases? Like, how do we do it? And Sarah has the rough numbers, particularly if, I think we can do it, if we just did it all at once, like right now, and just said, we're gonna do it. And I think you have those numbers of the impact that it would be, and let's just take it from, if you don't mind, from fiscal year so that we understand the impact to the budget from a fiscal year. Because her recommendation is going to include, or will include, the potential to implement this in fourth quarter of this year. So that would impact this year's budget, but I think it's healthier for us to discuss the impact of the implementation from a fiscal year perspective.
Definitely. I mean, how much effort would it take to, when we come to our blue line budget and we start plugging in our salaries, right? Could we get a quick taste of
Yes,
salaries
we
across
know,
the board
we-
at this
we know.
90% multiplier?
I have
versus-
them right here.
That's what's up.
I have 2025 budget
Am I holding
amendments.
onto it in my hand?
No, I
Okay.
did not include
No, but
that.
talk about 2026.
Yeah, so I have what I did is I did put together 2025 salary budget with Greenleaf and FICA.
Okay.
And then also a snapshot of 2026 at the 90% and 2026 at the 100%, what the what the effect would be on the budget, how much
Okay.
it would increase. Do you want me to just shout some numbers out there for you?
I'm not sure that I'm ready for that. I
Okay.
mean, I'm ready to see the information, you can
Yeah.
distribute it. I don't know that I'm gonna have any comments on that tonight. I'm gonna wanna digest it a little bit before I start spouting off.
For
Kinda
sure.
surprising, I'm sure.
For sure, and this is why I started the conversation, because we have to, we have to decide what can we do for talent and projects, right? And so, it's not an insignificant number. And so, I think that has to be part of the decision. Maybe, in my mind, less about the multiplier and more about how to implement.
For sure. I think that for me, the multiplier was the first step to getting to a final budget number. And so I just want to get a feel for that. What kind of a hole are we putting in here with this
Yeah.
proposal? So,
Yeah, assigning the multiplier is absolutely step one of this. That will inform every other decision made from this point forward. So, great questions. I appreciate the conversation. I did want to move on to the recommended assignments
okay.
and the pay grades. You do have also this information. Sorry.
Do we have so I was going to ask this when you come to it and you're here, do we have the number of individuals in each of these positions? There's only one for many of them. Or is
These are the,
Ones.
most of, I know we're not that large, but
yeah. So everything you see on here, this is the positions that we're talking about. There's not, they're all broken out individually. So, for example, we have 2 zoning administrators. You'll see zoning administrator 1 and zoning administrator 2.
okay, thank you.
And then we have a general maintenance level 1 and a general maintenance level 2. They're both broken out in there. So it's one person in each of these positions right now.
So I think part of the work that Sarah's been doing, so you have the first column, which is the positions listed by alphabetical order by title. The second column represents the pay grades. So we have the pay grades 101 through, ultimately, I think it's going to be 118. And so the Siegel study informed, and then Sarah went through, and we discussed slotting these positions underneath these pay grades.
So is that second set of columns there listed by pay grade?
Correct.
That is the future state or the current state?
That's future state.
Okay.
That is what we're discussing.
Yep,
Right.
okay. I didn't know if you were slotting them in where they're at.
These don't exist right now.
Got
We have none of this in
Cool.
place, so.
Makes sense. Perfect.
So then, for the for the receptionist position 101, then I hate to start there because the first 5 of them
They're not.
they aren't even legal, but then it becomes the 101-6, the 101-7, da-da-da-da-da-da. And then you can see on the
So
left
101 is going to be our lowest range.
Yes.
And we just have to say where that.
and that's
minimum's
based
gonna
off
be.
of the study and the job responsibilities.
Right.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
not the importance of the position.
Correct.
Okay, I just,
No,
because
no,
people
it's-
could feel
It's
some
a
kind
salary
of way
band,
about
I get it,
things,
it's a
right.
salary band.
Yep.
I think I'd also like to mention, I'm going to take this time to mention that when I was doing this analysis, pulling these numbers, there are some positions that are currently above their recommended pay grade.
And they won't be eligible for steps.
They will not be receiving a pay decrease. I want to be clear
Right.
about that.
Right,
We will
that's
not be
true.
cutting
Yeah.
anyone's
Yeah.
pay
I
down to
understand.
their pay level.
But they'll be capped.
Correct, yes.
Yep. It happens to nurses my wife works with, for example.
Right, people that stay with you for a long time, that can happen too. So, and I also, Sarah's not going to speak to this, but I'm going to speak to it. At no time did the HR department create a position and put a dartboard on the wall and throw a dart at a number. And I just want the board to understand that every time we've added a position, the HR department has reached out to her peers, the HR's peers across, and made sure that when we were creating offers, that they were based on something.
We were doing the best we
did-
could with the
We
information
were
we had,
doing the best
absolutely.
we could. I don't want, so, you know, I just want people, I want the public to understand that, I want the board to understand that. We didn't make it up as we went. It was based off of the research that we had. The Siegel study is the next step beyond that.
It's codification. We're codifying what we do.
Yep,
and
that
it's
is
that
correct.
simple.
This is going to definitely elevate our ability to assign the compensation appropriately for positions.
Can you talk about how, moving forward too? So this isn't just a static point in time.
Right.
What else do we have to help us in the future?
Sure, yep. So also in the compensation study policy that you have, I made a couple changes to it, not too many, but salary increases based on market assessments. I would still like to look at market. Yeah, I don't think that we never have to look at it again. We still need to be doing that work at a certain, period every couple years or so to make sure that our positions are still aligned with market. So that work is built in. So we're gonna do some, work within the HR department to make sure that our ranges still make sense. And also, I did want to also remind you that with our Siegel study, they didn't just return to us compensation data, they also have given us access to their proprietary tool, which they call the Siegel Evaluator, which will inform compensation indefinitely for us. We'll have access to it forever. They're constantly updating it with their market data that they are seeing. It is structured for our baseline. So once we set the baseline, then it informs current compensation for future positions. And the way that we will utilize this evaluator is, I want to try to keep it simple, but it will rank job duties and assign a monetary value to those, and it'll tell you at the end where your position should be situated, based on the responsibilities of the job, how many people report to this person, level of education you require, many different factors will go into informing the end result, which is, this is a 101, or this is a 104. So I haven't used that tool yet, because we have not adopted this system. So I don't want to, piece it out. I want to do it all kind of at once. I'm really excited to use it.
That'll be cool.
Yeah, so that's going to be an amazing tool that we'll now have access to, again, elevate our ability to assign compensation appropriately.
Okay.
Yep.
We're just doing discussion, right?
At this point, yes, questions for HR?
Tonight, we're not deciding on the multiplier, right?
Well, I think,
Because
I
I
think
would like
we-
to see some of those numbers that she said she's got before I provide an opinion on that.
Let me, I kind
So-
of lost my place in where I was in my presentation.
Sorry.
so let me, based on what we decide here, whether or not we decide to, I have Clerk Farmer's position already. She
Okay.
shared that with me. And I'll share it with you when it's time, but, advancing the budget depends on what, and we can decide to do nothing. Remember, that's an option. We can just say, we can decide, this is a
yeah.
recommendation by HR. We are not obligated to do anything. So I don't want to leave that out of the mix, but we cannot do a good job on the budget. I'm not going to ask Sarah to spend her time until she knows what direction this board is going to go.
Okay.
I mentioned this when we had them here. One of the concerns I had was the peer groups. Municipalities have a higher tax base than what we do. Some of those other comparables, I think, did falsely elevate it, because if you truly look at them, such as Lyon Township and such, it's not it's not a true comparison, in my opinion. So I think there may be some skewing a little heavier than what I'm completely comfortable with. And I mentioned that previously. I looked back and saw the notes and everything. So I still want to raise that here, that I think that the comparables that were used may skew things a little higher than what might be reality. There were very few that I felt were true peers in that group. So I just wanted to bring that up because it was a concern I had previously, and I do again.
Okay. Yep, totally understand. And I know, that looking at taxable value, population, tax, what's the other one? That revenue, sorry.
Revenue sharing?
Revenue that the municipality brings in to make these payments to staff. That's all highly,
Villages?
no,
Tax base. Your
tax
Oh,
base,
tax base,
yes.
Okay.
Got it.
Township 101. Okay, that's all very important to look at when we're looking at what are comparable municipalities. And what, another thing that I look at that I consider is simply, we're losing staff to these neighboring
That's what I was
municipalities
gonna say,
too.
is like, where's the competitive sweet spot?
Yeah,
Because that's what I'm interested in as, a board member and trying to help direct the operational piece of this. It's just,
right.
I'm not, we gotta figure out what the dollar number is, but what's the goal? We wanna attract and retain talent.
Absolutely, that is,
And if we're not competitive on salary,
Correct.
then we cannot do that.
yes, I don't want to lose a very high performer for our township to a neighboring municipality because of
So-
a salary
So my
discrepancy.
question is, what do you recommend as a multiplier to make Oshtemo Township competitive with its peers?
I recommend using 100%
Thank
as the
you.
multiplier,
Thank you.
yes.
So
So
here
I'll give you
comes,
an example of my position without getting too specific, right? So I have a salary, and we oversee 23,000 residents-ish, according to stats, census. The county that's in this study, and the city Midway, but the county, the treasurer there makes double what I make. So there's a 50% difference right there. The deputy also makes double. But the population and the revenue that they bring in and the workload that they have is worth double. And so to match them at 100%, you're doubling somebody's salary. Just using, I'm not in here, but it's to use me as an example because I don't know who else to use. It would be a salary double to do not that amount of work. It's half the work, but double the salary. And so that's how I look at some of these comparables.
and one other consideration I have is, how many open positions do we have? How long does it take for us to fill those positions? And have we had to, I know at one point we had a considerable amount of trouble, but those are factors that help me understand how competitive we are as well. So number of open positions, our turnover rate, and our retention rate, and how long those positions are vacant.
Yeah. So we have filled a lot of open positions this year. A few of them were vacancies, and most of them were new positions that we just added. I will tell you, there's a lot of positions have been filled this year. We have 2 open positions. We have an offer out for one, which is the finance manager, and then we have the GIS specialist that we need to backfill. We have a consultant doing that work right now, so that hasn't been top priority.
Yeah, we haven't decided.
Yeah. So I will also add in there that there has been a lot of salary negotiations during these offers that are being made. So,
Are any of those negotiations that have been presented to us outside of the ranges that are presented in the Siegel
no.
study? They're not?
No, they are not. But however, we didn't have this in
No,
place, so
but
it was hard.
but I've noted that
Yes,
because
yes.
I've seen it, so,
Yeah.
People that are professionals, and I wouldn't trade, well, all right, I'll just say, we have a rock star staff. And so, people that are professionals have been in their career, they know, that they can negotiate pieces of an offer, right? What I've noted, particularly for the last, I don't know, since we've had this data in a more organized fashion, when people come back with a salary negotiation, it's right within the band of where they're supposed to be. So, whether you use the 90 percentile or the 100 percentile, because those bands are frankly not that far apart, but I think that's so, do we not, is that a piece where moving forward, like, this is your band, this is where you're gonna land, and this is what, I think it's credibility to what we've already been doing, and credibility to kind of how this is being presented as a way to move forward on how we view compensation.
So I guess my opinion then at this point would be I'd like to see us try to proceed forward budgeting with the 100% multiplier. I think what I've heard is two members up here don't seem to trust the data, I guess, that we've brought in, and I don't know, I guess we gotta, at some point, you have to have credence to the information that we've gathered, and I think we've done our diligence, and I'll take the professional recommendation. I think it makes sense.
Okay.
And not committing to doing this in Q4 of '25 or at any point in time, really, other than let's put pen to paper and start looking at what budgets look like.
So I'm going to go ahead and kind of move past this and finish up my presentation. So again, my recommendations are to establish the proposed pay grades and the pay grade assignments with that multiplier that you decide on here. And then following the approval of the pay grades, I'm recommending and requesting that we adjust the salaries to bring all current positions to the midpoint of that respective grade. So future considerations following the approval of these pay grades, budget amendments will be presented to support the implementation date of 9/1/25. That's next week. We have another board meeting ahead of that date. However, I think it's critical for us to implement as soon as possible after this is approved, because that, again, is going to set our baseline, help us with budgeting for 2026, and, quite frankly, the longer we wait, the more expensive it will be for us to make these changes, to bring the positions to market.
I'm curious why, so I know the numbers, I know the budget implication. I do too. Yeah, and so I'm curious, why wouldn't we just put the number on the table so that we understand what the implication would be for, and this is just compensation, it's not, so there's.
I don't know. Why are we pulling out things at the last second? We could have led with this, I guess. We can share the information, I guess. I don't.
Is it in there, Sarah?
I didn't include it because we talked about not doing the budget amendment until the next meeting, but I.
I tried not to have tomorrow's conversation today, so
Sure.
we talked about a multiplier, and then we were gonna look at budgets.
Sure, I asked Sarah not to bring a budget amendment today.
I can easily.
Oh,
make
yeah,
them.
why don't we do that?
Because I don't wanna waste our time here if we know
No,
that this is
I
so
agree.
insane.
I agree, and I think maybe it was a little miscommunication. I
Okay.
requested that the
I
director
guess I would
not
have
bring a
assumed that
budget
you wouldn't have
amendment
brought me
tonight.
a 90 or a 100 if they were so
Yep,
out of.
yeah,
Okay.
no, all right. Well, why don't we take a 5-minute break, Sarah? Or do
Okay.
you want 10?
No,
Wanna come back at,
I just need to make these copies.
huh? No, let's finish this discussion. All right, so
Okay.
5 minutes,
I'll be-
Sarah?
yep,
We'll
I'll be
make
right back.
copies and we'll come back. All right, we're adjourned for 5 minutes. And then We took a short break here so Sarah could provide some more, the HR director could provide some more details. We will continue our discussion on the recommendations from Human Resources regarding the Siegel study.
Sure. Thank you, Sherry. So I just wanted to kind of finish up the presentation, and then we'll talk about these numbers I just put in front of you. So future considerations, obviously, we talked about, approving this pay grade structure and the budget amendments to support the implementation date of 9/1. This will, of course, inform our 2026 budgeting, so I can complete that for the salaries as well. Full-time elected official compensation is being evaluated still, and HR will bring forward any recommendations at a future meeting. So I'll walk you through what that looks like in these numbers as well. And then any potential updates to job description and job duties due to increased level of responsibility may affect those positions within the salary bands. I just wanted to add that in there. That's how I plan to utilize that Siegel evaluator in the future too, to make sure that those are situated appropriately if they change. So additional implication, salary, retirement, and FICA budget implications available upon request. They were requested and delivered. Budget amendment information would have been presented at a future meeting, but here you have it here. Okay, that's what I have. So what I'd like to do now is walk you through these papers. I'd like to start with the 2025 budget amendment. There's two pieces of paper for this. It's the one with the orange at the top, not the very colorful one, which I love.
All right, so this would be if the board decides to do an implementation at 9/1.
Correct.
So these would be 2025 budget amendments.
Yes.
And the other thing that Claire just, so in the bands that were presented to the board tonight, the full-time elected officials are not included in those yet. So Claire and I both just had a little bit of a heart attack. So, for example, the first line supervisor salary, that is not me. That represents the staff who are compensated out of the budget, out of the supervisor's line, okay? So just so that we understand that. This is the, I can't remember what all I know part of the front desk receptionist, operations coordinator, I forget. So that's what those, just remember that it's attached to a general ledger number, it's not attached to a person.
Your supervisor salary would be reflected there, right? But we are not including the supervisor salary in this.
That is correct.
These numbers do not
Right.
include any
Okay.
changes for the full-time electeds. This is just the budget amendments needed to bring anyone that falls under that general ledger salary number, which, as Sherry mentioned, includes, I don't have that information readily available.
Right. And I'm aware of
Yep.
what it represents. Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
Yep. So the 2025 budget amendment sheets that you have in front of you, this breaks it down by general ledger number for salaries, retirement, this is all proportionate to each other, and FICA. Retirement is a percentage of salary as well as FICA. So if salary increases, those two things increase as well. So that's why it's broken down here, and that does contribute to the overall cost. So on the second page of this, the numbers in yellow right there represent the budget amendment needed total through all of these funds, retirement, FICA, salary, for every single general ledger you see here. That is the total number of the budget implication for 2025 to implement this on 9/1. Obviously, it's broken down by 90% implementation or 100%, which is what we need to decide here.
So this is where the math becomes easy.
Yeah, I have a question about that. Real quick.
Yep.
So, just as an example,
Yep.
looking at the first line, the budget amendment at 90% is 12,000, and at 100% it's 21,000. Why?
That's that calculator. That's that percentage. that-
Why isn't it a 10% more, I guess, from 90 to 100?
It's 90%, I don't really know how to answer that question. I know how to answer it, but I don't know how to verbalize it.
Am I
So,
really dumb right now?
okay, so what, let me see. How can I-
Because not all positions, so
Oh, that's a good, yeah.
there are some positions that would not require a budget amendment if we went with the 90% calculator. And there's some, and then there are more positions that will
Yes.
be impacted if we go with the 100% calculator.
I
Thank you,
think that
Sherry.
makes sense.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
because I was expecting it to apply
Yeah,
across the
yeah.
board, 90 and 100, that's why, okay.
No, that, she's exactly right. There are less positions impacted if we go with
Because-
90% as opposed to 100%.
I understand
Yes,
now.
yep,
Thank you for that.
absolutely. So, yeah, those numbers in yellow on the second page are the overall 2025 budget amendments needed across the board total.
For one, or September, October, November, December.
4 months,
So for
yep.
4 months.
So, 33% of the year, essentially.
So this is where the math becomes easy when you're calculating for 2026. So if the board decides to implement the recommendations of HR to move towards this style of compensation package, if we executed the 90% multiplier at the Siegel study, 4 months would represent roughly $50,686. If we did 100%, it would be $114,428. And then basically you times those times 3, because you got 4 months in that budget amendment in 2025, and that will give you the rough number of what the implication on the 2026 budget would be regarding compensation, just the compensation. And does that make sense? Are you following my brain there?
The cost of 1/3 of a year
Yep,
is listed in the lower right corner.
that is correct. And then if you multiply that times 3, you get the whole year.
Yeah.
Nope, that's 1/3 of a year, 4 months. So you multiply it by 3, and you get 12 months. Okay, okay. Nope, I know, I got you.
Okay, so-
It's because we're talking about implementing this in 2025, and I think we need to have that discussion separately. But that's how you get to the budget implications moving forward with regard to compensation. And before we go there, I
Because that's
mean,
where I was going.
is that we know, just based on history alone, that our portions of our compensation package, such as medical insurance, will likely increase by a minimum of 10%. So, I'll stop talking. Sorry, Michael,
So,
go
no, no,
ahead.
you're fine. My big question is, why would we not start this at the beginning of the fiscal year? I may have missed something, and I apologize if I did, but I can't imagine starting something this large at the last of a fiscal year. Why wouldn't you start it at the beginning of fiscal year?
Do you mean in 2026?
Well, it'd be January 1st of 2026.
My professional opinion is we should not wait any longer to make these changes. I think that fiscally, financially speaking, I would push back on that a little and say, what would be the purpose of waiting until January 1st? We accepted this study in March. It's now almost September. The data has showed our positions need attention. Some of these positions need attention. And I think that we have a responsibility to the staff to pay some attention to that in 2025. So I wholeheartedly think that we should move forward with this as quickly as we possibly can.
The counter to that, though, is the budget we made was a very public document, and our public were able to see that.
Sure.
And, we, in a household, have to live by our budget. I understand there may be some people who are being hurt, but once a vote is made and a decision is made, at least there's light at the end of the tunnel, and we're not changing a budget midway.
Sure.
I understand if there's an emergency, if there were a massive disaster, obviously. But I just, and this is my fiscal conservatism, I apologize, but a budget's a budget unless there's an emergency, and I haven't been told of an emergency, so I don't know why you would do it mid-budget instead of budget for it, in the next one, allow the public conversation. I didn't understand.
Sure. We have talked through this in previous budget meetings, and it was even discussed when we were talking about 2025 budget for salaries, that there were going to be implications from the Siegel study. We just were unsure of them because it hadn't been finalized at that point. So that there was attention drawn to that during the budgeting to say this could potentially change based on the data we're receiving back from Siegel. So I think that, there was enough notice that this could potentially be coming down the line, that we would be doing these budget amendments. And I think did specifically mention that those will come to you in the form of budget amendments when we're ready to move forward. I totally see where you're coming from, just from, my professional perspective, supporting the staff, thinking about the talent we have in-house. I really think that it would behoove us and be the most beneficial for everyone if we move forward now.
But in that though, and I won't, you just told me we don't have a retention problem, our positions are filled, so we're doing okay right now. So those two don't fly for me. If we're doing okay right now, waiting till the next fiscal year seems prudent.
Yep.
If we were hemorrhaging staff, or we had a retention issue, or long vacancies, and we weren't filling them, I would agree, but I don't agree when you said we don't have that situation.
I would say we don't currently have that situation because staff knows that there's attention being given to bringing them to market.
I don't think 4 months will make a difference.
Thank you.
I think that, so from my seat, what also has to be considered is morale. So imagine if you knew the study was taking place and you were a staff person here, and then it was presented in March, and then you're still waiting for results, and then now it's coming, do you know what I'm saying? Like, so from, I agree with attracting and retaining talent, and is 4 months gonna matter, but does morale matter?
But
And so I just don't want to step away from a conversation that is dollars and cents only, because when it comes to retaining talent,
Well,
that's part of it.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying, in the private civilian world, as I have multiple jobs, so in the civilian world, if something like this were coming, I would expect it to be implemented at the first fiscal year, beginning of the fiscal year. And as an employee, I would expect, and in one of my civilian jobs, we have this conversation now, and we know that the changes will go in effect, and we tell our staff that the changes will go in effect that time. So even if we got the result in March, I would expect that you wouldn't see it in your check until the next fiscal year. That's just how budgeting
Yep.
works.
No, right, I just don't want to
I think that
talk
if we
about
told
what's
them
the other
this-
variables.
When we make a decision and we say, this is the decision we made, here is the impact to you, here is the effective date, I think you are still providing that relief, you're still hitting that morale, but you're not having that budget impact in mid-season, mid-cycle.
Yeah, all right, any other comments on this particular issue?
Yeah, I guess I don't have any issue with starting at September 1st, because we've been talking about this for so long. I can just see at the end of the year, the old Lucy in the football, or Charlie Brown, pulling it out and saying, no, we're not going to do it, or something else came up. I'd like to think that people know something's going to happen, whether it's good or bad, but I think something should happen. And I think doing it now, as long as there's money to pay for this right now, then I don't have any issue with that. My only issue, kind of aside to this, but it's kind of included in this, is I'm surprised that the maintenance director isn't higher rated than that person is, or where they fit in the bands.
Yep.
Which, of
That's
course,
what
would-
they come back, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
that's.
I know, and I appreciate that's what Siegel's study says.
Yep.
I'm not sure that that reflects the position that we have here and what the position here does. You know, there's certain buzzwords that go with, a position description, but I just can't imagine that the value of that person in this position and their responsibilities shouldn't be much higher than where they are put here. And that's just my personal
Sure.
suggestion, to have that looked at or changed or whatever. I think that's important.
So, as Sherry had mentioned, we did rely on Siegel for the placement of these positions within these pay grades. But having said that, there's no harm in taking a second look at that one in particular.
Yeah, I wouldn't want us to have had this study and then said, well, but we're going to ignore this one and that one and this one or whatever kind of thing and change these things based on how we feel that
Yeah.
day. I just don't think that it reflects the job position that we have.
Okay.
It just seems way too low.
Sure. Thank you for that feedback.
But regarding doing it this year or whatever, I'm perfectly fine with doing it September 1st. I think it's a good reason to do it. If everyone's sitting there waiting for it or knows about it, something's happening, the sooner you let people know.
Yeah.
I think
better.
we need to decide on what percentage,
Question.
I think, are we gonna, I'm sorry, go ahead, Zach.
So if we do the 100% and when we go forward with the budget amendments, that would affect all township staff that aren't a part of the CBA, right? And they would now be at the midpoint, that's what this would do, or?
This is completely separate from union CBA.
No, I know.
Okay.
I said non-bargaining
Non-union.
staff. This is all township staff would fall in this.
Correct. All
Non-CBA
non-bargaining
staff.
union
Yes.
staff, yes.
Not everybody would get an adjustment, but everybody
Right.
would be at or above.
So
Midpoint.
when we hit the 100% and we run those amendments through, every non-bargaining staff member would now have to be at the midpoint.
That's correct.
Or, yes,
Or
they would
above.
be
Or better.
at
Or
the,
better.
a
Going
minimum
forward,
at the
yes.
midpoint.
And then we would have a new 26
Yes.
cost for labor.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And then really quick, before we conclude, I didn't get a chance to kind of walk you through this document too. So it's essentially the same information that you were looking at, like Sherry had mentioned, to kind of extrapolate that number out for, the rest of the year. So I wanted to give you, the blue is what we budgeted for 2025 salaries, which were in line. The green is if we do 90%, that would be the, implication. And then the purple is if we do 100%, that's the increase we would see across the board. And then at the bottom, I just put some scenarios in there. This is not accounting for any adjustments in 2026, just these, bringing them to
So
market.
COLA's not in here, because
So-
we don't know what that is yet.
Right.
Can I ask who this excludes? Because I have payroll at about 5.4 million, which is about 2 million short.
This does not include union.
Just include the union.
This does not include the 21 bargaining unit members.
Okay.
Okay, that would explain the
I'm like,
difference.
well, this is like half of what we
You
pay
know,
out.
this does not include union,
No,
this
it's nothing
is
to do with union,
separate.
sorry.
And then, yeah, at the bottom, in the black, I just wanted to give you an idea, is if we do COLA or these merit adjustments, this would be, what we'd be looking at for the new numbers.
Okay, so the question I was trying to ask a minute ago, we do the 100%, that would touch everybody, get them to the midpoint of their salary.
At a
range.
minimum.
Now, we talked earlier about maybe saying we like the 100% multiplier, but we can't necessarily feel good about applying that to everybody across the board at one time. Was that an option that we discussed or not?
No, we
That we
talked
could
about the
start to move positions to the middle and not all at once? Was that not a thing?
Oh, I did bring that up.
Okay.
So,
Because that's the only piece of this that we didn't really get into.
That, I would not recommend doing
Not
that.
recommending that?
I would not
Okay.
recommend doing that. If we're gonna do this, I think we should do it across the board.
That's fine.
and
I just
for
wanted to
the-
understand.
Yeah, to make it the most equitable experience, yep.
That's fine. So, for me, I'm with trustee Sikora at this point. I think we've been at this for a while. It's time to either not do it and let everybody know we're not gonna do it, or we can go ahead and move forward and start making those amendments to comp the employees accordingly. So that's where I'm at. I don't have any other comments on it.
all right, all right, we've got two issues here that I want to kind of give Sarah some direction. The first, actually, I think there's three. The first is, does this body wish to move forward with the recommendations from the HR department? Yes or no? with regard to the changes in our compensation. Item 2 would be, do you have a position on if we move forward using the multiplier, whether we do that at 100% of the Siegel study? HR has also presented the 90%. Or do we want to see any other percentages, 80, 70, 60, 50? And then the third issue I see is, do we begin to implement this on September 1 of 2025, or do we implement it January 1 of 2026? Are there, I mean, that's what I'm seeing as the questions that we need for Sarah to move forward. So
Do you want to ask each of us those
I
questions?
was thinking,
Well,
or do we want to do them independently?
I mean, this is just, again, my opinion.
Yep.
I don't think any decision should be made at this time. This is a budget conversation. It's a meeting to talk about the budget. I don't think that we should make any official decisions right now in this capacity. It should be at one of our regularly scheduled board meetings.
That, I mean, I think I'm trying to give Sarah direction so that she can start putting numbers in the budget to bring to the board for discussion.
Okay, as long as it's,
So, I mean, let me explain my plan to you, okay? I guess, many of the non-HR related items are in the 2026 budget already. The HR department has a significant lift to get items into the budget. And you too, Anna. Because she has, it's a different conversation, she has lots of different funds. It was my intention, if we could give the HR department, I don't want Sarah, so if we don't want to make motions at this meeting, we want to wait till the 26th to present some motions for consideration and how to move forward. I just want you to know, I'm not going to ask Sarah to put numbers in the budget because it's a waste of her time. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I think then we would, if we want to wait and take motions around her recommendations at the August 26th meeting, then, you know, she can have stuff ready the first meeting in September, which I think is September 9th.
So essentially, at our next meeting, we would ask Sarah to bring back a recommendation and some motions?
Yeah.
Based on the conversation tonight, right? Okay.
Are we?
Would that help you, trustee Chapman, with the timing piece of decision-making?
yes, that would
Okay.
help.
I think we do need to give her some direction on information you want to see, right?
Right.
That's what we're going to give her the direction to do tonight.
Yeah, that part I'm fine with. It's
Okay.
just I did not want to have us approving any motions, passing anything.
I'm with you.
Taking a straw poll of information, absolutely.
I hear what you're saying. Okay. I just wanted to clarify my
Yeah,
understanding.
no, I think that's, looks like trustee Cole. Trustee Cole, did you have your hand raised?
I'm sorry. I'm going to be driving for the duration of this meeting, and I can't really raise hands. All I can do is star 6 to unmute, so I apologize. This has been great conversation. I honestly have gone back and forth a few times. Great questions. I just want to give where I'm landing right now with the information that I have, and it is difficult for me to not see the numbers because I'm driving. However, I am in support at this point with the information I have of doing the 100% multiplier and doing it this year. I think and 100%, Michael, you had me for a moment. I was swayed. I'm the fiscal part. However, you have also swayed me with we need to brand ourselves and what we stand for. And we need to stand for our people. We need to take care of our people. And I feel we've identified a lack of, I guess, providing for our staff. And Sherry, you said earlier on, we need to kind of decide today, are we going to do projects or people? Which are we going to invest in? And we don't have quality projects if we don't have quality people. And I think we need to invest in our people, and that's where I'm landing right now, 100% multiplier this year to implement. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. We're not going to take any formal motions. We'll ask Sarah to bring something back the 26th, but I think if people felt like they wanted to share their position, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with doing anything at this meeting. It's a posted meeting. It's a meeting that we can conduct business at. But I understand the concern, and I don't mind waiting one meeting. Will we be able to have a decision at that meeting that can be implemented on September 1st?
Yes,
Okay, it's not going to have to come
yes.
back for
If
another
it waits until the 26th, we can still make the timeline with the numbers that I've laid out. Mhm.
Okay. I think I said before, I'm in support of the 100% doing it this year and implementing the study that we've spent all this time and money and anguish and everything else on discussing to death.
Okay.
Sorry, thanks.
Thank you.
I'm in support of the 90%. I've seen numbers, and I think the comparison municipalities are huge. And so I'd be supportive of the 90%, not the 100.
How about implementation?
I mean, it makes more sense as a finance person to do a quarterly thing, not a 4-month thing.
Oh, so maybe
but-
10-1?
But like, yeah, like it just makes, in my brain, it makes more sense to do a quarterly as opposed to a 4-month thing. But
So I like the 90%, I'm with you. I think that allows an adjustment for the tax base of the samples that we were provided, or that were the samples they collected. So I would support a 90%. And again, you know my feelings on when I'd like it implemented.
Okay. I have, hold on, let me make sure. Clerk Farmer did send me her, she would, hold on, let me make sure I got it open in front of me and she hasn't updated it.
Is that after this conversation?
It's before the conversation, so, you know what, frankly, I don't even have to put that on the table, so.
It might not be fair in case.
Yeah, I think, I don't see her logged on, so, and she'll watch this meeting, so I don't have to worry about that. I am gonna come in at supporting the 90% multiplier based on Claire's points and Michael's. I do think that the data was skewed a little heavy. Based upon implementation, I can support a fiscal year 25 implementation. I think somebody that's in the office all the time, I can tell you that, and Michael, I totally hear you. Like, why not just start fresh at the new year? I think I like Kristen's comments about let's move on our values of what we said. So I kind of like the idea of starting 10-1 instead of 9-1 though. I think that like just the last quarter. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So who am I missing here? Zach, I don't see you on my list.
That's wild. I would be in favor of the 100% multiplier, and moving forward as soon as we have approval and the HR director is confident in presenting the budget amendments.
Okay.
Great.
And I don't see anything wrong with that thing. Hold on. I looked over your red line, and I agree with the changes in
Oh,
there.
thank you.
policy.
Is what
Forgot
I'm
about
Yeah,
trying to
so I think you can bring then for the next meeting, the recommendations, the budget amendment, and the board can take action on the policy.
Sure. Sounds good. I'll
And
be ready.
I would like to see some further discussion or evaluation of the maintenance director's position.
Noted, definitely. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Hey, Sarah.
All right, it's 7:15. I think at this time, that was a very good conversation. Sarah, thank you for your months of work and organizing and reorganizing. And she's not only presented to the body, but we have the internal HR board work group, which has had multiple conversations about this. One-on-ones with myself and Sarah and her team, like, nope, you got to tell it to me again so I can understand.
You like
So I
mumbling about
appreciate that.
multipliers in your sleep now?
Yeah. I ask, Treasurer Bushka, the last 2 years plus this year, has been kind enough to do revenue projections and put those revenue projections into the draft budget. And I think the one thing that I asked and she provided for us today is a revenue projection report. So this is something that we haven't necessarily utilized in front of us, so you can see the projections by the treasurer about the revenue that will be coming in to support the township departments and services. And I'm going to kick it off to Claire, and she can walk us through this.
So, this is what I've put in the projected 2026 budget so that the department heads have a basis of where they can set their budgets at. But for example, the property tax, the pilot taxes, the admin fees, they're all fluctuating based on millages that other entities are collecting. Right? They're also changed by any board of reviews, veterans exemptions, poverty exemptions, and court decisions for big box stores and things like that. So those are all moving numbers. They're not a set number, but those are the numbers that currently are coming up in the system when I plug in what our taxable values are, our database, and projected numbers for entities that collected last year for the admin fees.
Can I add one quick thing before
Yeah.
you go, is that these numbers are at the current millage rates. You did not do any projected numbers with regard to increasing any millages, any township millages specifically, correct?
That is correct. They were where they are last year. So if there was a change to that, obviously it would affect the numbers that are tax-based. The other numbers are holding steady or increased. The cable fees, however, are in decline. And that is because of we're losing cable watchers and headed more into streamers, so that does show a decline in there.
Do you think that's enough of a decline in that?
For us, yes. For a
Okay.
bigger entity like the county or the city of Kalamazoo,
It'll be
those
more.
jumps are bigger, but for right now, those are pretty consistent with what we're dropping every year.
Okay.
Constitutional revenue or statutory and constitutional revenue sharing are actually off their website for their predicted revenues for our amounts. So that's where I got that information from. And then, Dusty, I used Dusty's information for the monument installation, sale of lots, grave openings and things like that, but I did see an increase. So basically with all this other stuff that's not tax related, I used the past 2 years and use a tracking and a prediction for where we're at this year based on where we're gonna hit next year. So that's what those are for.
Well, and I had a question on the grave openings. I know you might not be able to answer it, but with the number of cremations going up and graves potentially going down, I see that you have grave openings decreased by over 50%, but the sale of lots went up by about 50%. Would that be appropriate? I don't know. It was just a question I had.
That's what's trending. I don't have an answer for that, other than maybe people are preparing as
Yeah,
opposed to passing. I don't know.
People tend to buy these ones years in advance for.
I know you couldn't answer, but it was one that struck me.
Yeah, Dusty could probably answer, but that's how based on last year and how we're trending this year is where we're predicted. And it's always better to undershoot than overshoot for budgeting, so
Absolutely.
that way you've got a little bit more room. But Trustee Sikora had the same question. He was whispering to me as you asked yours, so. Parks, again, they're all projected. Road property tax is the projected. That's a little bit less affected because it doesn't include any personal property that could go delinquent that gets collected later. The fire, I broke down proportionately for the 85%, 9%, and 3%, which is your operations, equipment, and capital.
It should be 6, 85, 9, and 6.
You're correct.
Okay,
It is at 6.
okay.
It is at 6. The
So
numbers
capital
are-
is
The
6%.
numbers are at 6. That number
That's
3 is
the
right.
savings fund. the
Yeah,
bill-
that is the savings for buildings, fire trucks, whatever their capital investments are. The police revenue, which I know we discussed, was it 2 years ago to adjust? That is still going up incrementally, based on the taxable value in new homes and whatnot. Building's a little trickier, so the building department, because they were Simba prior to coming into our budget, it's a little hard to predict, and so that's why those numbers are so dramatically different. This is their first full, well, the beginning of their second full operational year, so it's getting a little bit easier to predict, but by next year's 2027 budget, I should have them pretty much nailed down. But they are growing exponentially, as far as their permits and their inspections, and based on what we were guessing for numbers last
They
year.
are, I'm going to talk
They-
about this a little bit later when we move on to potential new positions. We are going gangbusters in that department.
Absolutely. I'm almost thinking they need more staff.
They
but-
are, it's on my recommendation
But,
list.
so, yeah, so their permits, their inspections, that is what they're actually on track if I fulfilled the rest of this year. And so that's why I put those numbers in there. Public Works is still a work in progress. I need to get with Anna. We don't have, like, for example, the USDA bond portion that's coming in for 2026 versus 2025. So I do need to sit down with the Public Works Director and kind of narrow those out a little bit more. These are the trending numbers, but if there's something coming down the pipes that she's aware of that I'm not, it's not in here.
Get it? Coming down the pipe.
So I do need to sit with Anna, and also the Parks Director. The Parks Director, because I don't know if she has grants coming in for 2026 that I am not aware of yet, so there's the other. I did add, none of the transfers are in here, so sometimes, well, not sometimes, every year we'll do transfers from like the general fund and the roads to the sewer, or from the general fund to the parks. None of those are in here, because in my opinion, for your guys' benefit, it made it messy, right? So like take 500,000 out of the general fund and add 250 here, and 250 here. So these are just straight numbers before any transfers. I also included soda and DDA. You didn't ask for those, but my assumption, even though they're not township funds.
They kind of are.
They kind of are, but
We collect
that
them and
revenue,
disperse
that
them.
budget revenue is in there anyway. So second to the right column is where those departments fall on their annual budget predictions. And then on the third page is where we stand as a township. For the revenue, they're on the bottom before the soda category. And then, just to toot my own horn, I wanted to add at the bottom, our investment interest is on track to pull the 385,000 this year, but 500,000 next year, so, get me.
Yay, stand on top of it.
Out of
I
curiosity, how are you managing to earn interest? Are you laddering CDs? How are you?
So we're
managing this?
using pooled funds, CDs, negotiating with banks on their savings accounts for ICSs, which is where you push money out, because you've got the 250 FDIC. They push it out to like hundreds of banks across the US, but maintain your 4.5%. And I have to negotiate that every year. And I just play bank against bank, and it's not too hard.
Pretty familiar. Okay, cool, thank you.
Thank you. So I guess what I'd like to hear from the board is, and we can, I know we have to provide our millages to the county by September 30th.
Yes.
I guess I want to just put it on the table. We can finish the conversation next week if we want to. I'm not pursuing my position is that we do not increase the millage rates, the township millage rates again this year, that we keep them the same that we have the last 2 years.
So if I can piggyback on that, I think there's a realization in the county that property taxes are quite high. And so the forms that we fill in sent to the county that are due September 30th are called 4029s. And every 4029 that I've had in for summer tax, and I have half of the winter taxes already, have all dropped them a very small fraction. So I think to go against what they're showing as being lower is an effort to kind of quell the community a little bit for us to go, well, let's up ours, I think would be a really bad move. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
So, I guess I just wanted to get a sense, and we don't have to have this, but it needs to be a conversation about where people are gonna be
My
at.
position on the township tax rate is simple. It will be set to what it needs to be to meet the needs that we lay out as a board. So
Okay.
if it needs to go up, we'll have that hard conversation and we'll have to decide at the end of the day, we're 4 out of 7 or better land. But I'm not gonna say no new taxes or yes, new tax. I don't know yet. We gotta get a little further and I'm open to it.
And so that's an important point because people are projects, right? Like, so, you know, if we're gonna implement the recommendations of HR, then that, I mean, it has to be part of the conversation. I just want to
Yeah,
put it out there that while you're thinking about these things, please, that needs to be, we need to have that hard conversation.
I might see the price tag and say no, thank you, but like, I'm not gonna do that until then, so.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Okay.
We don't have much time before September 30th, so hard
Michael?
decisions are coming quick.
No comment at this time.
No
I
comment?
don't have enough information.
No comment. We are not going backwards in our fund balances, so, I didn't get it to you for today. You have them, but you don't have them put together in one document. I compared, and I wanted to talk to Dusty about this today, but, our fund balances are not going backwards. Our fund balances are still healthy. So I don't want us to be afraid, but I also, it's not an emergency with regard to the finances of the township. Okay.
So was that item C that we just did then?
Yeah, it
Okay.
is item C. And then I have a discussion and review of the capital improvement plan. I wanted you just to go back and take a look at, and this is, let me open that document myself, if you don't mind giving me a moment here. Oh, no, I have the hard copy one right here. I don't need to open it electronically. The capital improvement plan is a tool that we use to plan for capital investments into the future. I had a conversation with the maintenance department because maintenance has a lot of capital projects and Public Works has a lot of capital projects too. There are a number of projects that were budgeted for in 2025 that due to supply chain, due to permitting, due to easements, due to whatever, they're not going to happen in 2025. So we are going to see where some of those projects that were budgeted in 2025, you're going to see back in the 2026 budget potentially. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. I do encourage you to, I haven't had anyone, any department heads that I've talked to about the capital investment or capital improvement plan. And this is something as we go through budgeting, now that we have it in a better condition, the one that we voted in January, we'll begin extrapolating that out to 2031. The only things that stick out to me that we need to think about as a board are our investments in fleet vehicles. Our public works staff is out in the field more frequently, our zoning department is out in the field more frequently, and our public works, zoning, and who am I forgetting? Parks, yeah. So, I mean, just based on the growth and the amount of work that these departments that are doing, you know, public works is going out and, you know, looking at roads getting torn up and measuring and assessing similar, we're going to need to probably, at one point, we thought about, we have a Camry that I'm going to recommend that we keep and not sell, because it's, even though it's older, it's got low mileage, and the recommendation from the maintenance department is just to do the regular maintenance investments for the number of years. But I want us to think about, we probably are gonna need to think about adding one, if not two more vehicles to our fleet here in the next year or two, so that those are available for staff. That's kind of the high point comments I have about capital improvement, but I'll welcome any questions if people want an update as far as anything on the plan that you have questions about. We will be 2026, the IT department is moving forward. Our agreement with our website, the company that hosts our website, is coming to a close, so that could be a new investment that's coming forward. The HVAC for Township Hall is, I think, maintenance department is trying to make that happen this year. See if there's anything else in my notes.
Can I ask a question about the
Yeah,
CIP?
yeah, go ahead.
And how do we think about filling in gaps in the network? In the past, we've talked about, you know, as redevelopment happens, that non-motorized paths would, you know, be part of that process, right? Sorry, I don't know if you want to across there. So, well, as I've lived in the town for 15 plus years, where we slowly see some of that come to fruition, but there's lots of stretches where we'd love to see a contiguous path, and it just hasn't happened yet. So, when we look at the CIP, where can we look to see if we're putting any priority on connecting us?
So some of that is in there. We started a few years ago budgeting $250,000 to do some of that maintenance of our current system, and then some of these smaller gaps that made sense.
Okay.
You know, if we were close, like for example, the path on West Main needs to be, some of the cracks need to be cut out, filled in, and the entire thing needs to be either seal coated or a thin overlay on it. And then it would make sense to continue down to 9th Street to Seco Drive and do that, get the economies of scale. We have a contractor out there. We did an asset management plan as well for our non-motorized system in 2023, so we're trying to put all that together and do that work. You know, we're coming in kind of as the last facility when it's non-motorized.
Yep.
So if you think it's hard to retrofit sewer in a neighborhood, it's really hard to retrofit non-motorized. So we're up against a lot of things, no pun intended, but right-of-way, easements, utilities that cost a lot to move if they're not in the right-of-way.
Okay.
And the permitting with the road commission, I will say, is our other hang-up. So
Yeah.
we are continuing to work through that and try to find solutions for everybody.
So would you say it's far more cost-effective to do non-motorized when you're doing adjacent work to the roadway?
Absolutely, yeah.
Just like any other thing, right? So,
Yeah.
but
Well,
it's-
and road work, you know, and so that's another thing that we need to continue to work on, those cooperative projects. Like
Okay.
when 9th Street was just resurfaced, you know, a lot of why CATS gave us that TAP funding was because the road work and the non-motorized work were to happen together.
Okay.
So, yeah, we did struggle to get some of the easements because, you know, we were outside the right-of-way. The other conversation that I know we have internally in Public Works that we need help from the policymakers on is then how do we maintain that in the long run? Because we're starting to get some of the gaps, are segments on what I would call an arterial or a major collector road where people are then trying to plow 10-foot asphalt paths in front of their homes. So I think that 250 that we've been budgeting is a great seed.
Okay.
And help with maintenance and get some of those low-hanging fruit connections. We're gonna have to talk about, which I think it's been brought up before with this board and at the joint boards meeting, like an SAD maybe in some of these more commercial, high-traveled, high-volume corridors to get that maintenance work done in the long term. More on the routine basis of snow removal and like trimming, weeding, that kind of stuff. So, it's a complicated, I wish it was as simple as it, sometimes you drive by and think, you can just put this,
What if we could just do this stretch here
Yeah,
between
yeah.
Seco and, whatever
Yeah.
on 9th Street? So
Yeah.
I guess when we think about like a stretch like that specifically, that's not a part of the plan description, like if, that section wouldn't be called out, right, in the CIP?
correct.
But when the CIP group is getting together, do conversations like that come up and then the group would prioritize and maybe put one of those on there?
Yeah, essentially that's what the asset management plan kind of did.
Okay.
That we completed a few years ago. So we are having those conversations internally very often about what's the right timing.
Yeah.
What makes sense. Oh, so-and-so knows a project's coming up here, let's try and coordinate. So
Yep.
a lot of it for public works staff is kind of keeping our ears to the ground too, to know when MDOT's doing a project, to know when consumers is coming in to do a project, so we can kind of coordinate.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Those
there's,
paths we have in this township are tremendous assets.
Mm-hmm.
If you hate West Main traffic, you should find yourself two wheels. It's amazing. They're all standing there and you're rolling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's great.
yeah.
But when the paths aren't contiguous, it makes it hard to get from A to B around town, so.
We
It's
also
a
have to
cool,
be,
an opportunity I see within the community, for sure.
for sure, Anna had an interesting idea on identity the other day, Michael, when we were chatting.
I know what it is.
What did you recommend?
The trailhead.
The trailhead
The
community? And then I said, maybe, or I'm like, well, we should take it beyond the trailhead, that we're the non-motorized community.
Looks like
So anyway, I thought that was really interesting. What I'm becoming, or what is becoming clearer to me is that getting the details around any project take longer than what you think it's going to. So even, I hear what you're saying, and I also think we're gonna have to talk about another asset management plan update, because ours is actually getting pretty old at this point. But sometimes, that stretch between point A and point B hasn't been done, because this bigger stretch that we have grant dollars for that we need to get done is taken, so, okay.
No, I'm aware of how we got into this position. It's just
Yeah.
that continual waiting for somebody privately to redevelop to
Oh,
then
no.
get a public amenity completed is growing tiring and frustrating. So
Look at
I'd
the
like to
cool
see us
thing
do it a little
we
different.
did with the recommendation for the brownfield redevelopment, the housing, that part of our plan included the extension of that path. So we are looking for all opportunities, at least to the best of our ability.
So it's not really a CIP thing, that my question, but it follows on the, connecting things. Where are we at with the whole snow removal thing and on all these things that, who's responsible and stuff? Is that something you can answer, just to kind of give me an idea? Because we had talked about it and then there were all kinds of different issues, just like a quick update on where that is.
Yeah, I had really envisioned that it would come out of the master plan. It was one of the, items that I thought we could spend a lot of time talking about. I think our master plan is a reflection of how much we're growing and how complex we are. And so there's some information that I think will help inform that. But that's kind of what we've been waiting for, is the master plan, because we added this section about the master streets. And again, to us, it's a complete street. It's not just the traveled portion of the right-of-way. So I think that coming in the next month or so will help give a lot of background and foundation for us to then come with recommendations and actually set policy around that.
Yeah, so that issue has not fallen off the wish list specifically. So it's not, it's not just if we should do it, but then how do we do it? And so that also is an internal conversation about do we try to handle that ourselves? Do we outsource that? Like, how does that go? So, it would really be, make it even more attractive, as far as supporting those kinds of projects. I think people would really see the benefit in that. Any other questions for Anna? Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the, anything you see in the capital improvement? This is not a static conversation. If you look through there, and, you know, we're gonna have, from now until the end of October, it's gonna be a lot of conversation around budget. So, if you wanna see something or don't see something, or wonder why it's at where it's at, please reach out and, let me know. Included in the material I shared with you is just a review of our current organizational chart. That was just for information only. As Sarah mentioned earlier, we did extend an offer to fill our finance manager position, and then I believe the only position that hasn't been posted yet is the GIS specialist, and Ann and I have had a couple conversations about what the next best steps are for that. But I just wanted you to see sort of, I think if you compared it to the org chart that's in the organizational review from 2023, it shows a lot of growth. So, very pleased about that. Any questions on the org chart, or shouldn't be any surprises. I just wanted you to see what it was looking like. The last is potential new positions, and I just wanted to share with you from my seat what myself and David, the new operations coordinator working with me, were doing regarding evaluation. So as we continue to grow and become more sophisticated as an internal team here, and that we've filled these positions, and I think I told you at the beginning of this year, we'd get them filled and we'd let this cake bake, right? Like, we'd fill these positions and let people become acclimated. And so now, David and I are having very strategic conversations with different departments to identify what is the highest and best use of people's time? Are they actually performing the tasks that are in their job description? And then ultimately, what we're looking for is ways to improve communication between departments that work together naturally, and then looking for holes. And so I will be coming forward to you with some ideas about how we might consider moving forward internally for the staff. Nothing dramatic, but so for example, I want to share with you like a jaw-dropping eye-opener to me. So been meeting with the building department, particularly independently, because we brought on an administrative staff person that supports parks, building, and maintenance department. And part of it is making sure that departments are getting the support that they need in that conversation. And I already knew that the administrative person, the full-time person, was overwhelmed, so we brought on the admin staff that we thought would relieve that. And my recommendation ultimately, as we move forward, is it's not going to be enough. Through the magic of technology, John, our IT coordinator, was able to pull just the phone records. This doesn't include emails. The phone records of phone calls into the building department for the first 2 weeks of July, and it was over 1,300 phone calls in 2 weeks. And so that right there is, they need more people to help arm them. We're doing some alignment with regard to making sure we're using the phone tree accurately, but those are the kinds of things we're looking for, is like where, you know, are we utilizing the resources we have to the most efficient, but are we, I mean, in this instance, I think we had a person working, someone that works that, I don't want to, I got to think of a better analogy, because a naughty, a one I can't use on the dais, but somebody who will work and work and work and work and work and work and not say anything and not complain until the floor is falling out. And that is not healthy for them, and it's not healthy for the township in general. So, Michael, are you looking at me?
No, I just, when I hear 1,300 calls in 2 weeks, I immediately go to a technology relief. Why are these people calling, and what can they do electronically so they can do it themselves?
So that doesn't include emails, and we have all new forms on, the building department has most of its forms electronically, so they'll call, and then the staff have to pick up the phone and say, and you can find that form online. So you saw where David presented earlier in his meeting communications. He's Rich. Sorry, Rich. I'm sorry. A name tag. He's been working on updating those info forms for the we started with the building department first on purpose to push out some of that information electronically. But remember also the culture of that genre in general is people out in the field, they pick up the phone and they make a phone call. And you should be very proud that our building department has a good reputation because our folks follow up, but I think we are expecting too much and we need to provide. So that's the kind of work that I'm doing with David, having communication, having conversations with staff, figuring out the structures, and then before bringing recommendations for potential positions, just kind of sharing what's going on internally from my office.
To give you an idea, I had, for the first time ever, more invoice payments for permits for the building department than I had for taxes in the last 2 weeks. Just to give you an idea.
Well, and, I mean, again, to the critical mass for that department, you know, you need to give people vacation, right? And we had one person that wanted to take vacation, and Sarah, myself, and others involved, clerk, treasurer, we spent a good majority of a week trying to figure out to make sure there was coverage. So that to me also says, if one person goes away for a week and we have to integrate 8 other people to cover that vacation, then we need more support, so, yeah. So it's been a lot of learning and a lot of fun conversations, but again, that's the work that we're doing before we bring new positions. Because I think if you all were from the AVGs that were presented to you from the department heads, there were, I think, 1 half-time position requested or something from department heads. So I think that is good. That it means that we've made progress, but I want to make, you know, I want to make sure we're doing the best that we can do.
Well, I'll throw out there that we definitely need to look at staffing for the parks. In the park department, we got a lot of stuff going on there, and we need more staff, whether it was in the AVGs or not. If you've done anything with them, or if you go to the meetings, there's so much going on, and we just need more people there.
We can't expand programming without more staff.
And just the
Anyway,
huge
I don't
increase
want to,
in,
I don't, you know.
outreach and public relations and the post-social media has just gone dramatically because we've had somebody here through the end of October.
And that's an intern
Yes,
position.
and it's an
I
intern
know.
position.
End
End of
of
September, I should say, sorry. But we need people like that and then people that work in the parks.
Absolutely. And that, I mean, that has been part of one of those conversations, so.
But the other thing to remember is if we put a position in building, which is restricted funds, so kind of like their own mini budget, that would open up part of that admin.
Right,
to parks.
to more parks.
And so people just start moving, and so I think that'll be helpful as well.
Well, and, right, so, anyway, just food for thought for the future, as we, you know, And I didn't put it, I don't think I put it out to you guys. I mean, you should have it. You've already received it once, but if it's not there, I'll send it out again. The organizational review that was done in 2023, we have actually slowly implemented some of the recommendations in that review. And so we are making some progress. And it's it's been slow, steady, but good steps, good positive steps. I had open office hours today. Well, I'll stop.
Could we get like an update of how that's going?
What's that?
The
Org
organizational review? You
Sure.
said you-
I mean, not today, if you
No,
don't
no,
mind.
no, no, not today. Yeah, no, that's fine. No, I was just,
Sure. All right, with that, we've exhausted item number 8, and we can move on to item number 9. At this time, I would open public comment. If there's anyone here wishing to make public comment, please, feel free. You have 3 minutes. I don't think I stated that before.
Shouldn't take 3 minutes. Robert Froman, and I
Mr.
made a
Froman,
mistake.
thank you.
I'm in precinct 4, not 1. Sorry
Oh,
about that.
if Dusty was here, she'd correct it. She would have
Yeah.
corrected you.
I just want to plant one piece of information into your ears concerning this HR topic that you've been talking about. I worked I had one main job description as an electronics technician for all of my working career. The last 25 years of my working career, I worked for one company, and I started at a level 6, ended at a level 11. It took me 20 years to max out my pay scale. And I'd like you to think about the fact that years matter, and you are essentially, from what I understand, you are essentially taking brand-new employees that you've hired in this last year, and instead of having them work 4 or 5 years to get to a level 6, you're going to start them there in September. So I'd like you to think about that, taking years of service into account where you start someone in this new HR project. Thank you.
Thank you. Years matter. Yes, that's absolutely true. Is there any other public comment? No? And do you see any hands raised? Rich? Blair? Mr. Rich Blair? No, you see no hands raised. All right, at this time, I will close public comment, and we can move to board member and committee updates. And I will start with Mr. Ford.
We have no updates tonight, thank you.
Mr. Sikora?
just a reminder that our last concert in the park is this Sunday at 6:30 at Fletcher Field. Kitten and the Tons is the band, so come on out. It's supposed to be cooler, not as hot as it's been the last two times, so come on out and enjoy the last concert.
Trustee Chapman?
Nothing to add.
Trustee Cole, I see you're still on there. Do you have any additions?
Yeah, no, I don't. Just very good conversation. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, but very, very worthwhile, and I look forward to the rest of it.
All right.
And I'm not trying to be a fire rescue tonight, so I'm gonna be glad we're ending.
There you go. Treasurer Bushka.
Nothing today.
None. Clerk Farmer is not with us this evening. Any comments from the supervisor's office? I want to remind, or I want to acknowledge the terrible tragedy that happened in our township on Sunday night, the loss of 2 young people at the corner of Stadium and 9th Street, actually more towards the community center. 11th Street, thank you. Parkview, yeah, Parkview. Yeah, Parkview, yeah, where that comes out right there. And I know I communicated with you, I haven't seen any updates from the sheriff's office yet, but I just want to extend a thank you from the dais. First, extend my sincere condolences and the condolences of the township to the families of such a tragic loss of two very young people. Oshtemo Fire Department responded promptly, as well did Kalamazoo Sheriff's Department, and we are thankful for that. It's definitely, and I want to remind the board members, there is an opportunity for you to sign thank you cards to, they're not thank you cards, they're more, they are thank you, but thinking of you. Certainly, they deal with difficult circumstances every day, but this was certainly a more significant tragedy than we normally see. So I invite you to take time and stop by on your way out tonight, and we'll get those off to those folks in service. But, you know, we can do stuff about, and I know the circumstances regarding this particular incident may not point directly at the conversations we've had regarding the configuration of our roads and the speeds and the improvements that we're trying to make. But I'm committed to assisting Public Works to getting there and getting the message across that we need to do some proactive things to keep people safe on the streets. So with that, I will close my comments, and I will close this meeting, and I look forward to seeing you all next Tuesday, right back here at 5:30 for our August 26th meeting. And with this, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks.